Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the LCN number 4040 XP. This is their flagship door closer, the most common LCN closer I believe that exists, the 4040 series. The 4040 XP is an evolution of the 4040, meaning the 4041 really, of their primary door closer, likely the most common closer that they have. The 4041 was the closer that would allow you to specify a door closer and have it adjustable from a very small spring size capability to a much heavier spring because of its onboard adjustability. Now the 4040 XP is the replacement for the 4041 series closer. It's basically the same closer. It most certainly is the same closer in shape and function. It's been internally modified to increase the pinion size and strength by over 20%. Taking an already substantial closer and making it better. The size of bearings and the pinion journal diameter has been increased. The geometry on the piston teeth have been changed to better distribute the friction and the load. The 4040 XP, as a result, is more durable and still maintaining the same templating, the same installation process, and of course the arms are interchangeable between the 4040, 4041, and the 4040 XP series, making it an ideal closer for use in high-traffic areas. Okay. The 4041 was a size that was adjustable from 1 through 6, and you're still going to have that same sort of capability on the 4040 XP, meaning that you're going to, with a single closer body, be able to handle a variety of different applications, with the exception of delayed action. If you order a delayed action closer, you'll get a 4041 version, so just be mindful of that. The specific differences, again, are the larger pinion journal and bearings, larger teeth on the piston, and on the pinion, and has a different closer casting. The internal aspect of it has changed. The similarities are that the 4041 and the 4040 XP will share the same springs, same arm assemblies, same covers, same screw packs, and the same templating for mounting altogether, so nothing will change. Except that if you order delayed action. Okay? And if you do, again, order that, you will receive a 4041 standard cylinder. Now, this closer I've seen specified in a countless number of applications, used in a countless number of applications. It's the closer that people are going to throw on the door that gets all the use and abuse, all the door that gets all the behavior, the activity, the volume. You'll have the doors in the condo building where you're going to have certain closers on the electrical closets, let's say, because they do want those obviously to be self-closing as they're fire-rated doors. And those are going to be a less expensive version. They're going to be a version that is not intended to carry the sort of weight and volume, weight of door volume, I should say, the quantity of use, potential abuse. I've even seen these door closers installed where they're installed on the push side and the pull side. The doors get so much, or they're so large. And in fact, I've seen installations where they've literally taken 2 of these closers and used for lack of a better term, a pipe, and connected the shafts together to put 2 hydraulic pumps, or 2 hydraulic cylinders, not pumps, but cylinders, onto a single size of door to get something really obtusely huge to close. So I've seen this closer used in really odd ways beyond what it was originally conceived to be used in. The availability of all of the different arms make it very compatible with practically every situation. I don't think there are corner brackets for these, so I don't know how well you're going to put this onto an arched door, and I'm going to go and say that they don't have corner brackets for this type of closer, although they might. We're going to look into the catalog in a moment. So let's take, the next step of this will be a visual review. This is going to be a 4040 with a standard arm, regular arm mount, parallel arm mount is what you'll, a tri-pack is what, you know, this kind of closer is known by a lot of people because it can be installed in one of three ways. Any of the three standard ways you can install this closer. Lots of options come with this unit, and we're going to go over all of that before the end of this video as well. And here's the business end of the unit. Cast iron closer body. They're heavy as a result. A lot of people like the weight of the closer. I think other manufacturers would argue that using cast iron gives no advantage, but people do feel that with weight there's quality. So this is a heavy closer being cast iron. What's nice about this is to the installer, you're going to have obviously easy to read templates, but to the person who has to maintain the closer over time, you've got some real quick adjustments that are right here because the instructions are long gone, and it's going to allow you to see what all of the adjustment valves are, which are being called out there. So for the person who is the restaurant manager and the door has started to slam a little bit, all they got to do is pull the cover off, look at the decal, and if it's got an Allen wrench, which is a very common piece of hardware, you'll be able to adjust the closer. Now let's continue on with the visual. You know what? Actually, let's just take dimensions as we go along. Really, this is all going to be referred to on the template as we get into the installation aspect. Overall length of the cylinder is about 11¼ inch. Overall height of the body, about 3 inch. Overall thickness, about 2 inch. Okay. Completely non-handed, completely reversible piece of hardware. You will get a closer, plastic closer body that is here. Okay. And they've made a bit of a modification to the cover. These two slots are really for, completely depends on the hand, left hand or right hand. Your closer is going to sit into with the spindle in this hole or in this hole. The one you're not using, you're going to be able to get the closer spring assembly section to fit or snap into this, which is going to help keep the cover balanced better on the door itself. All the movement, all the energy that's being worked on the door, it's nice to have the closer actually clip onto the unit, and then it screws onto the top of the body as well. So, it's an improvement to what they've done with prior versions, because I find door closer covers get removed or not put back, or the screws are lost. Well, this will certainly help assist in keeping it where it has to go onto. At the very minimum, you can push it on with this updated, revised cap. Overall length of the closer cover itself, and this is plastic. You can order optional metal covers as well, and about 12 1/8, about 3 1/2, with an overall projection of about 2 1/4. Metal closer covers, some people like. You'll see metal covers specified with a prime coat because they're going to be painted to match the surface of what they're going onto. It'd be preferable to order that. Metal closer covers are certainly more durable than plastic when it comes to denting them or breaking them or cracking them. And if you're going to order a plated closer, you want polished brass, US3, you want oil rubbed bronze, you want satin chrome. That's going to be certainly metal as well. Okay. This being a regular arm, we're going to have the forearm assembly, the main arm assembly, and then the forearm assembly here. And this arm will permit you to install this in a regular arm or a top jam mount. And we're going to get to the top jam mount later on with what reveal this will handle, because I don't remember what that is. But then you can add the parallel arm bracket, which will permit you to install this door closer on the push side of an exterior door. So that's where the tri-pack comes in. Regular arm, pull side mount for like an in-swinging interior door. Top jam. So where do you see? Let's put it into context of where you see the arm type. So regular arm, the bathroom in a restaurant, You're going to see regular arm installed there all the time. Those doors swing in. They put the hardware on the interior of the opening so that you don't see the hardware from the restaurant side. Top Jam. The next fast food restaurant you walk into, that door closer body is probably mounted on the header, and the arm is mounted on the face of the door, and that door swings out, and that hardware is mounted on the push side. That's Top Jam. Parallel arm, the back door of a strip mall, that steel door that's on the back, those doors swing out. That door closer is installed on the interior of the building, and that's where you're going to see that as well. So this closer is going to do any of those right out of the box. This is a TBWMS. TBWMS. Through bolt with machine screws. You're going to get through bolts, or sex bolts, these are called. If someone says sex bolts, this is what they're referring to. You are going to get machine screws in here to go with those through bolts or sex bolts, and you're also going to get wood screws as well. So this would be an example, the machine screw would be an example of what you're going to use for those through bolts or wood screws. And why they're so long is because you need to get through that 2-inch worth of body to get all the way through. Okay. If you can't drill and tap, through bolt it. If it's a steel door. If it's a wood door, through bolt it if you can. If it's a fire rated door, would most definitely through bolt it. But through bolt it if you can, because through bolting it through the door is a substantially more robust way to install it. The length of the through bolt from the underside of the head to the end is literally the length from the interior of the, well, from the face of the door that you're installing the closer body opposite of, and the inside face of the other sheet of steel, so that when you put the closer body over it and then run the screw in and you tighten it down, the inside of the face of the door where the body is doesn't crush down. It actually will rest against the face of this bolt. The sex bolt allows you to install something and tighten the screws down good without crushing the door in. That's what they're for, and that's why they're this length, and therefore they're specifically intended for an 1 3/4 inch thick door. If you've got 1 3/8 inch thick doors, these sex bolts won't work for you. They do make, there are those for 1 3/8 inch doors, and if you need help with that, we will certainly help you with that. Now, let's move on to a review of the options for this closer next. Now, moving into the accessories that are available for this door closer. First, let's state that this is a grade 1 door closer that is UL 10C listed and compliant, ANSI A156.4, ADA compliant, ADA rated, 100-hour salt spray compliant, meets BAA Buy American Act requirements as well. The X in the part number refers to all-weather liquid X fluid, which basically means that from a temperature range of 30 below Fahrenheit to 120 degree Fahrenheit, for manual closers, this closer's fluid has an operating range within. If it gets to about 167 degree Fahrenheit, the fluid will leak from the closer. Should that be of interest to you, it is mentioned there. Again, this is a non-handed closer that will feature peel and stick templates, meaning the installation process is very quick and simple. One thing that sets it apart is that it has a 30-year limited warranty, and hardly ever do we have someone call us to say that a closer like this has failed. It doesn't happen. They get damaged or destroyed because they're being used in applications that are well beyond what they're designed for. You know, I've spoken to LCN, and in the 225-pound range is really where the cutoff is for surface closers. And while everything that you're going to really encounter, door weight-wise, is going to be well below that. You could easily get into a door that would be that heavy, like a lead-lined 3070 door with an 1/8 of an inch piece of lead. You could easily see a door like that. It could be what's being done to a stock door with applied plants, molding, wrought iron, gatework, things of that nature. Or there is a manufactured custom door that could be 10 foot tall and 4 foot wide, and there's a pair of them, and they want to put a surface closer onto it, and the weight of the material is several hundreds of pounds. Applications like that, this closer is not going to work in because it's not rated to. It does have an adjustable spring size 1 through 6, so that's going to give you everything from a 2 foot very light door all the way up to a 4 foot plus door, realistically, range of door width for that size spring, and environmental conditions as well. Parallel arm mounting it will require that you adjust the spring a little bit tighter than you would in a pull arm, regular arm mount. Plastic cover, metal optional. The bolts that we came with, the standard ones, are called SRT, self-reaming and tapping screws. Just typical machine screws and wood screws that you'll get. Again, it's tri-packed. You can install it any of those 3 ways, and is available in a multitude of sprayed finishes. $6.89 for aluminum, $6.90 for statutory bronze, which is a standard middle bronze, medium bronze. Light bronze, $6.91. Dark bronze, $6.95. $6.93 for black, $6.96 for brass. And then you can do plated finishes over all of that. You can do an SRI, which is a primer only that we talked about, if you're going to paint the closer. LCN can do custom colors, should that be necessary. And then, again, all of those plated options that you have. This closer is compliant with the ADA requirements of 5 pounds of force as a maximum to when opening the door on a 3 foot wide door. Maximum opening hold point are available there with the templating, and we're going to get into the degrees of the door swing when we talk about the installation of the aspect later in the video. Okay. The manufacturer's product catalog for the 4040 series is what I'm referring to, looking through the rest of this information now. And what the catalog proceeds to do is to break down the different mounting methods: regular arm, top jam, the standard parallel arm mount, then the variations of the different arms that are available. If you get away from the standard arm, which can be tri-mounted, you get into an EDA arm, which is a heavy-duty version of a parallel arm. If you know that you're installing it in a parallel arm fashion, the EDA extra-duty arm is a great option. They have a Cush arm, which is a variant on the EDA arm, shown and drawn on the same page with the EDA, and we'll talk about the different arms in a moment. But the particulars of dimensional properties are listed on each of those pages, so it's a snapshot of, once you know how you're going to mount the closer, you can immediately look and see what your dimensional limitations are. Let's just take the easy example, or a very common one would be the regular arm mount. You're going to see some particulars that are really important to know. Don't exceed 5-inch wide hinges, and what they're basically saying is be mindful that if you have wide throw hinges, like a 4.5 by 6, you start to get into a point where surface closers just simply won't work because of where that vertical axis of pivoting occurs based on the door closer's geometries. Recommended at hold point, or where a door, if you're going to use an auxiliary stop, very common, that you want to place it at the point of hold open, or where the door cannot swing beyond, okay, which is probably 110 degree if it's an overhead door stop. Importantly, the reveal should not exceed 3/4 inch for a regular arm or a hold open arm, and the reveal is really the face of the frame to the face of the door. Because this is a regular arm mount, I would probably call that the inset. So the inset of where the door is, if you stood on the pull side of the door and ran your hand over the face of the frame and the door is scooched in a little bit. Not always, but usually it is, although it doesn't have to be. That dimension is typically 3/32 of an inch when you're dealing with a typical hollow metal frame and lots of aluminum frames. But you can have aluminum frames where it's flush. That dimension should not exceed 3/4 inch. Okay. I would call that the inset. The reveal is used in a top jam mount, which we're going to talk about because I'd mentioned it earlier. Your top, and then it gets into your top rail cannot be less than 3 3/4 inch, top of the door to the top of a plant, or more commonly a light. Cannot be less than 3 3/4 inch. Otherwise, you need an auxiliary mounting plate, which we'll get to. The clearance 2 3/8 behind door for a 90-degree installation. That's a common mistake that people really get into. Bathroom door we talked about earlier. You want to make sure when that door opens and it's at 90 degree that you have 2 3/8 of an inch from the face of the door to the face of that wall, so that the door closer body doesn't hit the wall. Every so often I see or I encounter a door where they've literally cut a rectangular pocket into the wall so that the closer body can reside within that space when the door is pushed to 90 degrees. If you have a dimension less than 2 3/8, you need to relocate the closer or change the closer type altogether. Delayed action, again, you're going to get that 4041 cylinder which is not required for handicap compliance, because a delayed action closer will permit you to substantially slow down the rate of close on the door, well over a minute. And that's just not required by code, so be mindful of that. Although you might have an application where you do want the door to stay open that long. There's no doubt. Delay time adjustable up to approximately 1 minute. I've seen it longer. The maximum opening on a regular arm, the templating allows up to 120 degree, and hold open points from 90 to 120 degree with an appropriate hold open arm. All of that applies to a regular arm mount. As we go through those details for the different mount types, your limitations, your requirements, your possibilities and capabilities of what you can do change as well. The reveal applies to a top jam mount where you have the dimension from the stop to the face of the door, because the arm has got to stretch from where it's installed all the way to the face of the door, which is directly related to the depth of the hollow metal, or the depth of the frame that you have it installed on. In a hollow metal application, if you have a 5 3/4 frame and you calculate what is permissible in a regular arm mount, a reveal of 2 9/16, from the face of the header to the face of the door, if you had, and we'll just quickly do it, if you had a 5 3/4 frame, and you had a door rabbet of 1 7/16, where the door resides, and then you knew that it was an equal rabbet frame on the other side, you could also then deduct 1 15/16, which means that your stop is 1 7/8. So your 1 7/8 plus the rabbet size gives you a dimension of 3 13/16, which tells you that you do not have adequate arm length to do a top jam mount in that sort of a reveal. Okay, so be mindful of the fact, if you're doing a top jam mount and your reveal is greater than 2 9/16, you're going to need the long version, which the only thing that changes is this arm. This will change. This will physically be longer, is the bottom line. Then you can get up to a 4 13/16 dimension reveal. That will be within that standard application. So you really have to have a really narrow frame for a reveal of 2 9/16 to work with the standard arm. I'm tempted to say with that sort of dimension, it's difficult to say that the closer's tri-packed when, if you're doing a center hung door, 2 9/16 reveal is going to be probably pretty well within the range of what you're doing on an aluminum storefront. But a hollow metal frame, your reveal is going to be longer, greater than that. You're going to need the long version for sure. And if you have a especially deep frame, 8 3/4, you're going to need something that's going to be larger than even the long along will be a problem at that point as well. So be mindful of how the reveal directly relates to your options when it comes to installing a closer and a top jam mount. So I won't go through all of the different regular arm, top jam, and parallel arm features. Suffice it to say that it's there for your review. Now let's move on to the different options in an overall sense of the closer series. Now when we're dealing with options, it's going to start with the cylinders. You're going to be able to purchase a replacement cylinder only, a 4040 XP-3071, and if you need a delayed action version, you're going to have a 4041-3071. So the 3071 tells us that it's the body only. Covers, you can order a plastic cover that will be a replacement plastic cover, or you can order a replacement metal cover. That suffixes -72. Then there's a variety of drop plates, and the drop plates are going to be where you have physical limitations. I'm not going to go over all of them, but when you have a header or a door, anything unusual, certainly investigate whether or not you will need a drop plate, and unless you're dealing with conventional installations on utterly flush doors and very standardized frames, I would review what the limitations are dimensionally of what you're installing, and then if you see conflict, move on and analyze what drop plates are available. Aluminum storefront, you see drop plates in every installation. On this closer, you'll see them in almost every installation when it comes to aluminum storefront. There are then, speaking of aluminum storefront, some option pieces that we can jump down to, where you might have a blade stop, a very thin piece of metal, 1/8 of an inch thick at the most, and you need some way to bridge and balance the parallel arm bracket. Well, a blade stop spacer can be installed there. Other supporting brackets are there. Different applications, if you have a transom application and therefore it's completely flush, you might have a requirement for a specialized adapter plate if you're installing it in a parallel arm mount. Those are in the catalog. You can even purchase that replacement snap-on cover clip, which is nice. We jumped over all of the different arms that are available. So in the regular arm, you're going to have the standard, you're going to have the long arm, and then you'll have the extra long arm, which gets into dealing with the different reveals. You would only order a long or extra long arm when you are doing a top jam mount. Parallel arm installations would never require that, and in fact, I would argue that they would work quite counterproductive to a parallel arm mount or a regular arm mount. You've got hold open friction style arms, standard, and then a long arm if you're doing a top jam. You have the extra duty arm, which is that parallel arm only installation in both a standard and a hold open version. You have extra duty arms that will permit you to work in a blade stop sort of scenario. You have a hold open version of that. You then have their cushion stop, their CNS, which brings on board, parallel arm only, brings on board a stop, a non-handed reversible piece of metal that's threaded into the parallel arm bracket that the main arm will make contact with, limiting how far it can open. Great feature in gymnasium doors in schools. You then have, in a non-fire rated application, that same scenario where you can have a T-handle style hold open functionality along with it. Someone says they want the handle hold open. That's what they're referring to, at least in my experience. Then you have a cushion stop, you have a spring cush, which is the same concept as the dead stop, except that there's a spring inside of there that will allow you to arrest that through the traveling of the spring, the compression of the spring. Then there's that same spring stop with a T-handle hold open, and that's all of the arms. The go-to for me is going to be the cushion stop arm in lots of applications and only hold open in non-fire rated applications. That gets us through basically all of the options. So a hallmark of the LCN line is that it's simple and straightforward. You go to that top series, get down to how you're installing it, and then do a reality check. Is everything that I want going to fit on my door? And if not, look at the accessories and see what they've already created to solve your particular installation. Low-hanging fruit on that, of course, is going to be you're going to be doing an exterior opening on a hollow metal door and frame, and you've got a full glass. It's going to be parallel arm mount, and you want a cushion stop or a cush type arm. You're going to look at how you're mounting it to be sure that your top rail on the door, from the top of the metal vision frame, let's say, to where you to the stop itself on the frame, you have enough room to fit everything. And if you don't, make adjustments. So that's what's great about this catalog. Now, the final portion of this video is going to get into the installation aspect. Now, moving into the installation aspect of the 4040 XP closer, LCN does a really great job at trying to make it super simple. Templates that are self-adhesive, and they apply to the door. And, you know, this one paper template can be used to install the parallel arm mount, well, with this little featurette, or the regular arm mount. The top jam is going to be the same sort of scenario. And, you know, paper templates for people are the greatest thing since sliced bread, literally. So, understand that LCN exerts energies to make that easy as possible. My personal opinion on templates are that if I do the same task repeatedly, I will manufacture my own permanent template, because what I try to do is really reduce from the equation the possibility for error, and you really can't with the paper template. But making a piece of wood that allows me to mark only those locations of what I need, and if I make it fancy, so to speak, I will give myself multiple locations of where to mark my holes depending on the degree of opening, okay, which we're going to get into. And also, we can help you with pre-manufactured permanent metal templates for doing this job as well, so be mindful of that. If you're doing one, the paper templates are perfect, exactly what you need. And yes, you might do a reality check on where you've applied it based on what you expect it to look like and how it is to operate once you're done. But the paper templates are to be heavily relied on. Now, LCN is always going to provide us with installation instructions, naturally, as will everyone. And generally, installation instructions, that looks like an awful lot of mess. And the truth of the matter is, regardless of who makes the door closer, regardless of how expensive or inexpensive the closer is, whether it's domestically manufactured or if it is imported, you're going to have the same sort of closer instructions. In general, when it's a surface-mounted closer, there's going to be a page that's going to tell you what's in the box. This is what's in the box. There will be some basic contents. How to control the valves on the closer body. That's all going to be generally page 1. Page 2 will be regular arm. Page 3 will be top jam mount. Page 4 will be parallel arm. And they're all generally built like that. So that's a similarity that you can count on when it comes to installation instructions. And of course, the flagship LCN Surface Closer is literally no different. Maybe marginally different, but it really isn't. The next similarity that you are going to experience when it comes to installation instructions is going to be where you locate the closer body on the door in relationship to the vertical axis of pivoting, which would be if it's a butt-hung door or an offset pivot, or a center-hung pivot, the vertical axis of pivoting, the imaginary vertical line that will go through the barrel of the hinge, so to speak. the dimension from the center line of that location to the first screw hole is directly related to the ultimate degree of opening. Okay? And as I'm looking at the installation instructions, I am literally looking for the table or chart that refers to that. And since we're talking about that vertical axis of pivoting, if you're using swing clear hinges, you just take the center line of that vertical axis of pivoting of a swing clear hinge as well. Even though that's moved over, you're still going to measure off of that dimension. Okay. Now, for the regular arm and the top jam arm, the physical location is literally based on a 120 degree swing of open on the template. Okay. So it's the dimension from that to the first screw hole is literally based on a 120 degree opening. And as I review the installation instructions, giving you a dimension to 120 degree for top jam and pull side and not telling you how to move the closer body over toward closer to the hinge, in fact, for a smaller degree, like if you wanted it to go to 100 degree, you'd actually move it closer. Not telling you that information is probably because door closers, this door closer without a specialized arm is not meant to be a dead stop, is not meant to act as a limiting feature of hardware on a door. But be mindful, the closer that you, forgive me, I said that completely wrong, the more that you move the closer body away from the vertical axis of pivoting, the smaller the degree of opening. I've literally seen people move, the door could only swing to 60 degree to allow someone to walk into a bathroom. Getting to 90 was a problem because there was literally an angled wall. So the angle between the two was like, 70 degree. So they kicked that door closer over so far from the hinge where it would literally not open anything to but about 60 degree. The more that you move it closer to the hinge pin, which we'll see in the parallel arm template, the further degree of opening can be achieved. But you're at 120 degree with a regular arm type mount. The installation of any of these methods is basically, where do you mark the holes? And for sure every single time, and as is in step 7, dimensions are given. You literally lay those holes out. How far over from the hinge pin, horizontally and vertically. You mark all of those holes. You mark all of those holes, and then the holes that you need for the shoe of the door of the forearm onto the header. Now, be mindful the placement of this shoe, whether it's this way or this way, needs to be adhered to in the installation instructions. There is a trick that if you need to accomplish a slightly more aggressive amount of close, flipping this over literally may solve the problem because the point of geometry changes on where it is. So be mindful of how that's being installed and work to the template. Locate the holes for the body, for the shoe. Do a reality check. Double check everything. I know for sure that it's not fun. I know from experience it's not fun to drill that first hole in the wrong location because there ain't no way to fix it. Okay? Doing a regular arm mount template, when you are doing a top jam, there's no way to salvage that problem. You've put the hole on the wrong side of the door and the wrong type of hole. The body isn't going there. So no way to fix that. It's literally on the door and on the wrong side of the door, and you have no way to fix it. And if it's a fire rated door, you have to use steel to close that off. Reality check. Make sure everything's correct. Once it all is correct, pre-drill your holes, and they're basically saying in the installation instructions, use an 1/8 inch pilot hole. Drill everything. Start to attach everything. If it's a regular arm, you're going to attach the main arm so that you're 100 degrees from the face of the door. Then put your forearm in and make that 90 degree or perpendicular to the face of the door. Attach. You're done at that point. It's literally that easy. Then adjust your spring tension based on the chart that's here, given the size of the door and whether or not it is interior or exterior. the number of adjustments that you may do on the spring is going to be different on all of the mounts, but most obviously, or most apparently, when you install them in a parallel arm mount. You will need additional spring tension if you're parallel arm mounting it. Now, let's jump to the parallel arm mount where we can show you in that same drawing that we showed earlier, in this table here is where it's going to tell you how far that dimension needs to be to achieve a degree of opening. Now, you can get to a 180-degree swing. You want that door to go all the way open and hold up against the back of the wall, you know, so maybe a school playground. It can do it. You just have to template it accordingly, and you'll see proof that as you move the body closer to the hinge, the greater the degree of opening is accomplished. I don't know if that is a linear relationship between those points in a parallel arm mount as it would be for a regular arm mount. I'm quite tempted to say that it will be close. So if you really wanted to reduce 120 degree down to 90 degree, you know, yeah, you might scooch it away from the hinge pin about an inch. You're certainly going to reduce that. If that's a hard number that you need to know, reach out to us and we'll get LCN to give us the details of that. Your spring tension, again, you're going to set that. Then you have you've got your two primary functions of control of the closer. Your sweep speed, or what they call the main speed, and then your latch speed. Latch speed is basically 0 to 10 degree. Whatever it is, 0 to 12, 0 to 15. That's the latch valve. It gets its own valve. The sweep speed is from that point out to about 80 or 90 degree, or where back check would kick in. Back check is the point beyond that, where if you have an exterior door that swings to the outside, back check valve, if the wind were to grab the door and push it out, it will arrest how aggressively the door will get pushed open, noticeably aggressive, the arresting of the door movement. And you can demonstrate that if you have a back check enabled closer, which you're going to right on the base model. You're going to have your back check all alone down here, okay? And you play with that and you'll be able to tell that it will arrest the door. Staked valves, these little peens that are here and down on the back check valve. That's to keep you from doing what I did well over 25 years ago the first time. I backed that valve out, opened it up so far that as soon as I hit the closer, putting pressure in the system, it pushed the set screw out, flew it all over my jacket. Closer's finished. There's no way for the layman or the field person to repair that. It can be sent in for repair. But staking it prevents you from removing it. So that's really a high-end feature. Obviously LCN, a high-end closer manufacturer. And adjustments on those closers are like anything else. Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. If you want to close the valve, turn it clockwise to the right. And that's indicated by the rabbit and tortoise, that is turtle, that's on the installation instructions as well. Very simple. Spring power, increasing it to the right compresses that spring. The rest of the installation instructions I don't think call anything out, except that physically, I'll conclude this by saying physically install the closer so that it's dimensionally proper, so that it's correct. Once you've got that, and you've double checked everything, and after you do one or two, you'll be doing it practically blindfolded. And if you make a permanent template or purchase a permanent template, it will be even easier. Once it's physically installed, you're really now just at a point of dialing in the latch speed, the sweep speed, back check if applicable, and then your spring size, based on the chart that's here, based on the size of the door. Okay, an industry standard closer that's been around for decades. I love the 4040, and my career started, I think, about the time this came into play, and before that you had to know the mount type, the 4010, 4020, 4030, not compatible on the job site, these different door closers, because they were push side mount, pull side mount only. My first job, I learned that lesson the hard way, that they're not interchangeable, many years ago. I am incredibly partial to LCN when it comes to door closers. probably because I'm most familiar with them, but it's the technical support. Okay, I contact them, I get a prompt, reliable, predictable, professional answer 100% of the time. You can't do a small job or a large job and be on your own. You're going to need someone at some point, at least to get clarification. With them, you can count on it, and that's why I keep going back. Any questions on this or any other LCN product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.